Welcome to our section on operant conditioning. Operant conditioning was founded on the law of effect proposed by Edward Thorndike. Thorndike used cats as research subjects, which even by behavior standards was unique. He constructed puzzle boxes and placed cats inside. The cat is trapped in the box until it presses a pedal that operates a pulley system, lifting the door, which allows it to escape. But in the initial trials, the cat doesn't know this and engages in a variety of behaviors in attempts to escape. Our cat may howl, scratch at the walls, pace, etc., but nothing happens. Eventually, he stumbles upon the pedal and is set free. Thorndike predicted that the consequences or effects of behavior influence future behavior patterns. If an action produces a desirable outcome, that action will become more likely or more frequent in the future. With subsequent trials, our cat spends less time engaging in howling and scratching, and we see an increase in pedal pushing. The behaviors extended Thorndike's law of effect to develop operant conditioning. One of the most famous behaviorists was B.F. Skinner. Instead of puzzle boxes, he developed the Skinner box, an enclosed environment in which the behavior of rats could be conditioned and recorded. Rather than freedom, the desirable outcome is food. And through repeated learning trials, our subjects, our rats, or maybe our pigeons, learn to press a lever or peck a disc to receive food. Through operant conditioning, we've expanded our simple stimulus response associative learning pattern to include the outcome. Stimulus response becomes stimulus response outcome. We'll examine each of these components. So first off, in operant conditioning, we call the stimulus the discriminative stimulus because it signals to the subject that engaging in a behavior will result in the desired outcome. This is not always the case. Behavior doesn't occur in a vacuum, it's contextual. Pecking a colored disc may get a pigeon food in the experiment, but this is unlikely to be the case out in the wild. The Skinner box can be modified so that pressing a lever only produces food when a light is on. So the light is the discriminative stimulus. The same could be said for how we use a vending machine. Putting money in a vending machine will result in a soda, but not if the machine is out of order and the light is off. If you enjoy fresh warm donuts like Krispy Kreme, you may have to wait until the light is on, signaling that they have a fresh batch ready. I actually don't know if the fresh light is still a thing. It's been a long time since I've been there, so maybe you can think of a better example for me. The response is more crucial in operant conditioning compared to classical conditioning. With classical conditioning, the dogs receive food regardless of whether they salivate to the bell or not. In operant conditioning, the rat must press the lever or food won't be administered. With a focus on voluntary responses rather than reflexes, we can engage in much more sophisticated behavior modification. Complex sequences of behavior can be learned through operant conditioning, but this takes considerable amounts of time and strategies such as shaping and chaining. Shaping rewards successive approximations of a desired behavior and is useful when the desired behavior is very unnatural for the species. Let's take our piano playing chicken from chapter 1. If we place a piano in the chicken's environment, we may wait a long time before that chicken just happens to peck a key. So we could reward the chicken every time it approaches the piano, then every time it got closer, then when it touched the piano, until the point in which we reward it for actually pecking one of the keys. With chaining, we train the subject to engage in a series of discrete actions in a specified order. For instance, pecking the piano keys in the right order to produce the song. So check out the video in your slides to see how service dogs are trained to do laundry. Finally, let's examine the outcome. This is where many people get confused, and it's due to unfortunate terminology. We'll start with the first two keywords, reinforcement and punishment. Reinforcement always increases the likelihood of a behavior. So just keep that in mind. Reinforcement always increases the likelihood of a behavior. Sometimes reinforcement is called reward, and these terms are used interchangeably. Just know that anytime you see reinforcer or reward, it means we are increasing the likelihood or frequency of behavior. Anytime you see punishment, we are talking about decreasing a behavior. So punishment will always decrease the likelihood or frequency of a behavior. Next, we have the terms positive and negative. And this is where people get confused because they think of these terms of good and bad, right? Don't think that. Think in terms of addition and subtraction. Positive means we add something, and negative means we take something away. Positive reinforcement is adding something good to increase behavior. If your kids clean their room, you give them a cookie to increase the likelihood they clean their room in the future. So you're adding the cookie, you're adding something that they like to increase the likelihood of that behavior in the future. Negative reinforcement means that we take something away that increases the likelihood of that behavior in the future. So we're taking something bad away to increase the likelihood of a behavior in the future. And this one's the one that's kind of the most tricky. But imagine you have a headache. So you engage in a behavior, you take an aspirin, and it removes your headache. So we're taking something away, we're taking away the pain of the headache. And this should be perceived as a desirable outcome. So taking the aspirin resulted in the removal of pain. So the behavior taking aspirin will become more likely in the future. Positive punishment is adding something bad that decreases that particular behavior in the future. So maybe you backtalk your mom, or we'll say grandma. My mom is a very kind of timid, mousy woman. My grandma was really feisty. So you backtalk your grandma and she slaps you. She's added a painful slap in your face to decrease backtalk in the future. So we're adding something not good, right? We're adding something bad to your experience to decrease the likelihood that you'll engage in that behavior, that backtalk in the future. Negative punishment is taking away something good to decrease a behavior in the future. So your kid gets in a fight, so you take away her Xbox. So you've taken away something she likes to decrease future fighting behavior.